Introducing Michael Grabow. I'm really excited about this Virtual Summiteers Event Innovator Insight session. Our guest today is Michael, owner of the Essential Link Business Coaching and Training Network. And Michael has been doing this work for over 40 years, celebrating 44 years this year. The cycle, the challenges, and what actually sticks when it comes to leadership and growth. He's a certified instructor with Ken, forgive me if I say this name wrong, Blanchard Companies and Franklin Covey. Did I say that right, Michael?
Well, you did the Blanchard right, but Covey was the other. Covey.
So close.
Yes.
Michael has trained leaders all over the world, and his passion is helping people unlock potential they already have, not chase some unrealistic version of success. Today, Michael is going to walk us through appreciative inquiry practices and how we can use them to reframe challenges and actually bring our ideas into reality. Michael, we're so glad to have you here. Welcome back to Summiteers.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Thomas. I was so glad to be here. It is so cool. We've been doing this for almost 6 years now, haven't we?
That's right.
It all came about, folks, because of a little sniffle, a little cough, and next thing you know, we were in a pandemic, and we had to figure out how to go from what I like to call 3D development training, where people are in the room, to this 2D stuff. And Erica, with this meeting platform, I think that puts me at about 7 different platforms that we've had to work with to be able to distribute communications all around the world. So it's been wonderful, and it's been challenging. And one of my mentors is a guy by the name of Jack Canfield, the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy. And in our mastermind, right when the pandemic kicked off, he was telling everybody and advising everybody, do not look for the new normal, because everybody seemed to get kind of, okay, well, our normal's been disrupted. So how can we get into this space? And instead of, and there was a lot of talk around, how do we get back to new normal? And Jack nailed it. He says, you cannot look for the new normal, because there's no such thing as normal. But what you should be looking for is the new better. And I will tell you, the relationship right here on the screen is part of my new better, because I went from 160 days in a classroom to now I'm doing about 100 days, 110 days online. And, I'm still doing a little bit of live training, about 10 to 20% in that window from time to time. But this is our new reality. And it's not so much about that space of getting into the new normal, but it's getting into the new better. And I told Jack when he was retiring here recently at his event, I let him know that I had to let him know that new better got me through these last 6 years, wow. Because one thing that you got to know, there are extroverts out there. I happen to be one, in case you didn't know. And I'm in this and I say newly because it's 6 years old, newly introverted world. And for those of us that are extroverts out there, we really have to work on how do we start to learn some of those introverted skills so that we can get into the new better, not go to the new normal, but get to the new better. And I'm just saying that, you know what, Erica, you've been a lifesaver for me, because I need people in my life, and you helped establish that. So thank you very much with Summiteers, virtual Summiteers, and not the Mickey Deers or the Mickey Mousers or whatever. We've actually got into it. And I know you guys are addicted to the Hey Summit world. So I know you're working on your addictions, and who knows what life's going to be like in the future.
I do still love Hey Summit.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a good platform to kind of tie everything together, I think, is really what it comes down to. Because, they don't do the video hosting, but they do everything else, handle the tickets and registrations and payouts. And so it's really a good environment for that.
Hmm. Absolutely. And that's where you guys started connecting at it, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're working on video hosting now.
Are they?
Oh, wow.
Okay. That would be nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very nice. Very nice. What would you like me to do there, Erica?
Go ahead and get into your slides.
All
Like
right.
I am still interested in hearing your presentation because I was excited about it when you told me the title of it last night.
Very, very cool. Well, folks, I've been working with something from David L. Cooper Writer for probably, from my experience, it's been about 15 to 18 years that I've been working with this concept of appreciative inquiry. And a lot of people talk about what they call the 4D or the 5D model of appreciative inquiry, but I've been exploring it from all kinds of different angles. Okay. And the first place that I kind of got connected to is a couple of friends of mine, which is Jackie Stavros and Sherry Torres. And they wrote this really great book called Conversations Worth Having. All right. And I got to tell you, I got so enamored because during my podcast, watching Jackie share about conversations worth having, at that point in my life, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to know how can I have conversations worth having. And so I reached out to Jackie, and now, like I said, we're friends. I'm also a certified practitioner of her program of Conversations Worth Having. And that's where she actually started to share some things about appreciative inquiry that really kind of shifted some processes. I got so enamored with the book, I bought this and I gave it to a lot of my friends here in California. Those that left California didn't get a copy. But then again,
Can you back up a little bit, Mike, and define appreciative inquiry, because that's a new terminology for me.
Yep, I'm going to do that in a moment through the slides, but I'm just kind of building my way into how did I get into this. Okay.
All right.
And so what ended up transpiring is I handed this book out to a whole bunch of folks, a lot of folks that I work with here in California, and very few read it. And I was planning it so that they could have good conversations with me. So I kind of had a little bit of self stuff in there. And so I was a little disappointed when I found out that most people didn't really read the book, but those who did changed how they were connecting with other people. Not only that, but it also taught me how to connect with my head. All right. And I know that's going to sound a little bit strange, but up in here, we have this meaning making machinery. It's called our brain, but at the same time frame, we're always making meaning out of everything. Someone looks at you a certain way, you go, oh, I know what that means. No, you don't. No, you don't. So you got to be able to kind of explore that a little bit. And then what I realized is, wow, how many times do I kind of go negative in my head? And so, and I don't know if anybody else does, but I know as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, if you will, we're always fighting this battle more than we're fighting the battle outside. And so what has happened for me is Jackie taught me this concept of positive framing or positive reframing. So I'm going to be sharing that. I'm going to be sharing the groundwork, the underlying concept of what is appreciative inquiry. I also want to teach you guys today positive framing, positive reframing, and I'm also working on a methodology in projects on how can we take ideas to bring ideas into fruition. So that's what I plan to hit, and let's get this party started. So I'm going to bring up the slides. I won't be able to see the screens here, but if you guys want to make funny faces, that's up to y'all. All right. Let's see here. There we go.
Shadow puppets.
No. Not that at all.
Oh, that's back in the projector days. Sorry.
Hey, man, yeah, I happen to kind of model that a little bit. My first training classroom had an overhead projector. There you go. All right, folks. So, hey, bottom line is we're going to leverage appreciative inquiry and positive framing practice for change. We want to be able to drive growth through positive organizational strategies. So this works for small organizations, medium-sized organizations, large organizations, but it also works for those of us that are individual solopreneurs. Okay. So today what I want to be able to do is hit you with these ideas. I think I've already given all these tips, tricks, and techniques that we got going on. So let's get started. First off, let's understand appreciative inquiry. So appreciative inquiry is a strength-based approach. Okay. It's a strength-based approach that focuses on identifying what life gives to an organization. Right? And I want you to get that. What life gives and also what gives life to an organization and or the team. What gives life to your organization? What gives life to it? It's that engagement factor that we have to be able to figure out. And instead of always getting stuck in what's not working, let's start focusing in on what is working. Now, what's interesting about AI is that it actually simultaneously is a mindset, a methodology, and a practice. What do you think? Does that give you the foundation you're looking for in appreciative inquiry to kind of get started?
A mindset,
a methodology, and a practice.
Okay.
Simultaneously.
Okay. That ties
okay.
together.
The foundation is what we ask creates what we find. What we find influences what and who we become. So what I want you to get is in Dr. Covey's material, he talks about what we see determines what we do, and what we do determines what we get.
Is this programming our reticular activating system?
Yes.
I'm being nosy.
Yes. Okay. Yes. That's that again, talk about RAS. It's about but how do we trigger that RAS? Through the power of questions. See, Socrates, the very first coach in human history, is quoted to say, I cannot teach anyone anything. I can only help them think. And how do we create thinking? Is by asking questions. Okay. So I love this whole idea that when we ask, we can actually create what we find, and what we find influences who we are. So it's getting to the space of, I like to call it the curious exploration. How do you become curious? Too many of us dive deep into a hole instead of saying, wait a minute, what can I do here? Oh, what would happen if I do something a little bit differently? What does different look like? Once we start asking the questions, all of a sudden we're no longer stuck in the hole. We're start moving towards health. Okay. Now, appreciative inquiry, a lot of times people talk about the 4D model. This is the 4D model. We start with a positive core. Once we have that positive core, we start to get into what is happening, what gives life, what is the best of. And this is where, Thomas, you and I worked with a lot of different questions where I said, tell me what's working before we start talking about what's not working.
Right.
Because I wanted to bring life into our conversations. So what is working? What have we done? What is the best of that we've been? What does this look like when it's being done? And we go in it with curious exploration. From that, we start to dream dreams. Once we dream the dreams and determine what can happen because other people have done something similar, or we can actually take it to a new level. We start to design and we focus in on what we want, not what we don't want. That's the design model. What is that ideal? What is the ideal that we want to be able to bring into it? And the more we focus in on getting to the ideal, the better we're going to grow. And then that creates the destiny. So that's what we call the 4D model. There is a 5D model out there, and that really starts with the defining the appreciative topic. What topic do we want to go after? Let's discover the positive aspects of the object of inquiry. Let's dream about the group at its best. What does it look like when everybody's firing? If we move everybody's talent into their area of strength, what would that look like? What would happen? What can we do if we actually start to make that happen? All right, best ofs. And then once again, concrete proposals, a new organizational state, and then implementing the different parts of design. This is known as the 5D model. Very similar to the 4D model, but we start with defining what is that appreciative topic that we want to go after. And once again, we have to begin with the idea of what's the positive core. If we're stuck in the negativity, we have to shift it. That's where this tool here came from, which is called introducing positive framing. Okay. Now, using positive framing can create possibilities for positive change. So introducing the model, it's kind of like, what's our frame? What are we looking at? Okay. And so positive frame model helps us turn our problems into possibilities. Customers often bring frustrations, delays, cost, complexity. And we're, like I said, we're in that problem. We're looking at it. Now, a lot of times I've done some really good root cause analysis, but the problem with root cause analysis, I still stay at status quo. What I want to be able to do is I want to break out of status quo. I don't want the new normal. I want the new better. So instead of reacting to the problem, let's reframe it. Reframe it in a productive direction. And it's 3 simple questions. It really is. Name it. State the issue. Okay, we're in this space. This is what's going on. Flip it. Identify what is the outcome we do want, or what we like to call this is what is the positive opposite. So name it, flip it, and then frame it. This is where all the work is in the framing aspect. What specific actions will make the positive opposite inevitable? I know it sounds simple. It is simple. The problem is a lot of times we try to complicate it. So basically, if I'm in a space and I'm having problems with maybe some communication, I got to be able to say, look, I'm struggling with communicating with this group of people or with myself or what's going on here. What's the positive opposite? What's the flip I want? Well, I want to be able to have open communication. Well, that means I need to be open. Okay, cool. So what is the positive opposite of struggling in communication is I want communication to flow. I want it to be open. I want it to be in the space of where it's loving and it's moving things forward in a positive way. And so when I flip into that space, now I can then frame that. Hello? Everything doing okay?
I think Thomas has a cold.
Oh, okay. God bless you, Thomas.
I'm sorry, I was coughing.
That's okay. I thought you were laughing. I was like, wow, what was funny with that one?
I'm going to hit my mute, so I'm gonna mute this because I got a little bit of a cough here.
Got it. So what I want you to see there, folks, that's where our mental unconscious bias, he was coughing. I thought he was laughing. So I wanted to find out what was going on. So what I needed to be able to do is, okay, here's where we're at. Let's flip it to the positive opposite and let's frame it. What is the actions? What are the specific actions? Who do I need to be able to get that positive opposite and make it inevitable? Okay. So in other words, what it's getting us to do is working on what we want, not what we don't want. So let me put it in more of a graphic form for you. First off, we're going to name it. Name the problem, name the complaint. And I'm going to tell you where I've been able to use this more often is right here in my own head. Okay. So if I'm in a space, where am I? What is this negative? Let's flip it. What's the positive opposite? Let's frame the positive opposite. What does that positive impact look like? What are the things I can do to make it? What are the actions I can take? So when I frame that, I'm working on what I want and not stuck in what I don't want. And it has helped me quickly get out of my head and move on into a much more powerful place because I'm working on what I can do, not what I can't do. Hope that comes across okie dokie for y'all. So let me show a little example of what that looks like. Okay. So we got the name it and the flip it. So let's identify an issue or a topic that needs to be addressed. Our shipments are being delayed. Okay. That's the name it. Let's flip it. We want our shipments to arrive predictable and support our workflow. Now, that's it. It was that simple. This is where we're at. This is where we need to be. This is what we want to take on. Let's stop focusing on what the breakdown is and let's start creating the breakthrough. How do we create shipments that are predictable and that support our workflow so that we don't go above and beyond it? We actually can hit it. So in this area here, we can actually frame what does a consistent, smooth, predictable delivery schedule look like for your operation. So once again, you sit back and you can start to ask some questions. Asking the questions start to generate some life. We call those questions generative questions. Those are the questions that bring life to a conversation. So what kind of questions can actually do this? What consistently, creates that smooth and predictable delivery schedule? Or what actions and or behaviors will create the desired results? When we start to be able to do that, it starts to really make it flow very easily. Okay. So naming it, flipping it, framing it. Another example is this. This region is not producing the results. Just identifying, hey, you know what? I'm going in a certain area, a marketing channel that I want to be able to take on. And lo and behold, it's not producing the results I want. All right. Well, we want strong traction and we want energized relationship here. That's the flip it instead of nothing happening. So where are some of those earlier signs that can actually show us, or where have we seen earlier signs of success, and how can we build on those moments? And so Erica, I know you're still on here and Thomas is muted, but I want to ask a couple questions. Here's a couple scenarios that I'd like you guys to kind of like walk through. The customer says your pricing is too high. What's that issue? Would you like to come on here verbally? Let me hear what's the name it in this situation? Your customer is coming to you and saying your price is too high.
It's possible that you're talking to the wrong person.
So is that the name it? I'm talking to the wrong person?
I'm thinking that's one of the possibilities, or you didn't explain the value of it, or their return on investment.
You're jumping right into a conclusion, but let's pause for a moment. What's the issue right here?
For the customer, the price is too high.
For the customer, the price is too high. How do we flip that?
The value is very high.
Right. So how can we be able to demonstrate? The flip is we don't want the customer to think the price is too high. We want the customer to believe they're receiving value.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's the flip. We don't want our customer thinking our prices are too high. We want to be able to make sure the customer sees the value. Okay. So now let's frame that. What are actions and or behaviors or campaigns that we can put together to ensure our customer understands the value, or that we need to be able to understand that we provide and deliver at a higher value than what the customer can even understand and perceive. Did that make sense? What are some of those actions that we could do?
I would say for me, more events, more social posts speaking on the value that I would provide as a service.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thomas, any ideas, sir?
Basically, it's how you communicate the value rather than price. So, and that's a common problem, I guess. So you're framing it as the customers say, or the illusion is your price is too high. So we flip it around and say our value is the value for what you get for the price is reasonable.
Is reasonable. And so what we need to be able to do, what would be some of the framing actions or behaviors that you would want to do to make sure that your customer is aware of the value that actually makes the price reasonable?
So I think it's part of, it's part of the, so how do I say that in one sentence? But as part of the marketing, you got to communicate the value versus the price.
So that would drive us to another question. What is our true value? And how can we be able to make sure that our value is stepping up? Do we need more customer service in there? Do we need different things? Now we're working on what we need to be able to do and not driving down our price point or getting stuck in this story that our price is too high. We've got to be able to, how do we create making sure that we're adding more to what they're seeing, and we create a methodology on how that works. That would be in the frame it process. That's scenario A.
Is that part of,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Is that part of, if you're looking at it and saying, is our value really that high?
Right.
Our perception versus the customers,
correct,
is another question. So,
so
that's part of the framing.
And what's the gap?
Yeah.
What's the gap there? And what's the gap in our head? What's the gap in the perceived value of some of our
right.
Valued customers want to find out, what is it that they value? Because you may be thinking you're giving value, but it's speaking in a language they're not familiar with.
Right. Yeah.
So we've got to look at what is the language of value for that customer. It might be, you know what? I can take a little hit on my quality if you can take a little hit on the price, but we don't know. But once again, it's working on the issue, not getting stuck in the issue. So that's scenario A. Scenario B says customer complains of lack of updates. So I never know what's happening with my shipments. What's the issue? Guys, you want to give me what the issue is there?
Communication.
You need to communicate the updates, like what's going on with the shipments.
That's right. That's right. So basically we're saying, hey, you know what? Somehow or another, the name it is what way or another, the customer is not getting the information. Right. What's the flip it? What do we want?
They want to.
Oh, go ahead, Erica.
Just tell them what's going on with the shipment.
Okay. And what were you going to say there, Thomas?
I was just going to say regular and useful updates on shipments.
Great. Okay, so now what we've done, we've named what the issue is, we flipped it. Now, how can we ensure that all of our customers get regularly scheduled updates? What's some actions and behaviors that we can do?
Tracking stickers.
Tracking stickers, cool. What else?
Well, email to update that on the progress of shipment.
You didn't quite make out what he was saying there.
Yeah, his voice sounded like music playing or
That's
like
right.
violins
Well,
playing.
that was my phone ringing off the hook this morning. So
okay. So what would you say is some action? So we can do the tracking stickers. What else can we do?
Emails on regular progress of the shipments.
Very cool. What do we
Okay.
need to have about our emails? Maybe some terminology in the email that we want. Maybe we also create a schedule of being able to make sure that, hey, at such and such date, when someone does an order 3 days later or 2 days later or 1 day later or 2 hours later, whatever it is, now we're creating a schedule to make sure that our customers continually get informed.
Right. Tracking links, things like that. Yeah. So, yep.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. So you guys can see, you just name where you're at, you flip it. Now, our tendency, and a couple of you are kind of going into that tendency, the tendency is always to get into fix mode. Try to disconnect the fix mode for a moment and just name what it is, name what we want, because usually we don't take the time to actually say, what is it that we really want? And then what are the actions that will get us to what we want and not stay stuck in what we don't want? Does that make sense, folks?
Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Any questions on name it, flip it, frame it?
Frame it really isn't the solution or the fix it. It's really stating the state you want to be in, I guess.
That's the flip it. The flip it is the state you want to be in. The frame it
Okay.
is the actions that we can do to get to the flip, to get to that positive opposite.
Okay, but you were
And
saying
what-
that we're getting into fix it mode, which
Right, right,
is kind of the same thing in the frame it. Yeah.
right. The fix it mode is in the framing it. But what
Okay,
we're
got it.
fixing is not so much fixing it, is bringing what we want into fruition.
All right, I get you. All right.
Okay, everybody follow that thought process.
Yes.
The problem is it seems so simple, and it is, but we don't want to trust it. Because we've been spending all of our life fixing stuff the way we fix it. Oh, that's a problem. I got to work on the problem. Instead of working on the problem, work on the fix.
Okay.
Okay. So the last one is my pipeline is not moving for one reason or another. What's the name it here? What is our sales rep telling us? What's the issue?
There's a bottleneck somewhere.
Very cool. Very cool. What's the flip?
Find a bottleneck.
Okay. Or make my pipeline completely smooth without any pinching point. Okay, now let's get into the framing. What are actions and behaviors we can do? We're going to have to analyze our pipeline. We're going to have to look at our sales material that we're sending out. We want to be able to make sure that have we named different stages of our pipeline? Have we identified where everybody's at? Are you measuring it, or are you just kind of going on default? You see, now I'm working on how do I create a pipeline that is smooth and able to be filled and moving forward. What are the actions that move people from one stage to another within my pipeline?
Sure. So if you have, I think of pipeline in terms of funnel, but same thing in this case. But you can go and look and see where customers are getting hung up, or where they're not getting past a certain point in your funnel or pipeline, and that should identify an area at least to look at as far as a snag goes or a hang up. So if everybody's getting the same, if you're losing a significant percentage of your prospects at a certain point in your pipeline, then that's a potential problem. So that's part of the analysis, I guess, you got to look at. So
yes, sir.
where
Yes, sir.
So,
and again, that's in the frame it. What does a smooth pipeline or smooth funnel look like? What are the steps and actions that will make things inevitable so that it's moving, it's not sticking? Like you said, identify those.
Part of the flip it would be then we want customers to move through our pipeline in 30 days or something like
Exactly.
that. Yeah. All right. So
exactly. Now we're naming what we want, not staying stuck in what we don't want or where we're at. It's how can we, not how can't we.
Right.
And it is a very simple process, but a lot of people get stuck on the, hey, I got to fix this. We'll fix it when we explore it.
You have to know what you're fixing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the name it. And then we what do we want to create? It's
Right.
creating that vision of what we want to create. That's the flip it.
Yeah.
The frame it is the actions that will get us to the flip, not the name it component. Practice it a little bit. Practice it up here first. When you start to catch yourself going in a negative space, instead of going into the negative space, ask yourself, where am I? First, identify where I'm at. And then, okay, what do I want? I want this other. I want the positive opposite. Okay, how can I work on actions that will create what I want and not stay stuck in that negative space of what I am? And I got to tell you, that simple name it, flip it, frame it, it takes a little bit of work to kind of get to there, but it's once I start to work on that, I can get myself out of a negative space rather rapidly. So I want to suggest that for y'all. And for those of you that are client facing, that you can use this with your clients to actually be the advisor and the consultant versus being a salesperson. Okay. Would you agree that we can do this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's 10 top sales questions that you might want to take a look at, to help, what's working best in our current logistical flow. When have shipments been completely smooth for you? What factors matter most to your ideal logistic partner? What strengths does your team rely on most right now? What would great look like in 6 months from now? What small changes would make the biggest positive impact? How do you know when a logistic partner is really working? What's a recent win that we can build on? What opportunities do you see emerging in your supply chain? So once again, these are some great questions. I hope you notice that when I asked the question, your brain started going, okay, let's get into that space. And all of a sudden started feeling lighter on how we can actually go after things. So what would make working with us even easier? See, we're in the space of creating, not in the space of fixing. And so bringing it all together, if we're in the problem solving, we're into what's the fix. In appreciative inquiry, we're going after what to grow. It's a new grammar, new set of words. Instead of problem focused, we're looking on the fix. We're going on to what can we create. Okay, it quickly expands vision, builds community. It assumes the organization has sources of infinite capacity and imagination because we're thinking in a growth mindset. Okay, an outcome future is created based on possibility driven by the greatest strengths and aspirations of our team. Okay, so that's AI and that's positive framing. Hopefully that has created some ideas for you. What I've ended up doing is I've taken a concept that I put together. Instead of using the 5 Ds or the 4 Ds, I have come up with something that I call ideas as a project methodology. So the first step is to get into inquiry. So this is where you want to get curious and you want to explore. What is the idea that you want to create? What do you want to bring into reality? Go talk to people, go interview folks in this space. What can be done? What would it look like if we brought this idea into reality? How would that change other people's lives? How would it change our lives? What could we do? And so once again, it's getting curious, getting into inquiry space is what I like to call the first phase of my ideas model for project methodology. The second one is to discover. discover what is the talent that you have, what is the talent that other people in your team have, what's the context of this idea. Is it going to be predictive or is it going to be adaptive? So in this space here, you're going to start to find out what is the context of this idea so that you can bring it into reality. Then we get into establishing the plan. This is where we create the process and we invite feedback, and we're open to hearing what other people are thinking and seeing so that we can kind of create the project that we want to bring into fruition. Then we get into action. This is execution and completion. And then sustainability, which is how do we update, how do we maintain what we create? So that's what I call my 5 steps of project methodology, by using appreciative inquiry as a foundation, by starting with, let's get curious, let's discover, let's establish an action plan, let's get into action, and then how do we sustain it? You know, I've worked with many different organizations that they've created something through a project, and yet then they don't maintain it afterwards, and it dies on the vine. And so that just to have to redo it again. So let's create a sustainability around the idea that we want to bring into reality. So to kind of go into a little bit more depth, and I'm not going to go that deep in it, but I want you to know my slides have the definition of inquiry is to ensure that we have the right growth mindset. We want to meet with our project sponsor. We want to draft our project background and purpose. We want to complete some research, and we want to go interview some people on the highways and byways. We're going to take our findings from that and we're going to share those with our sponsor. That's all in that space of inquiry. In discovery, we want to identify what is the project context and the complexity, and to select developmental approaches to be able to do that. Is it predictive? Is it adaptive? Identify the talent and resources that we need to be able to create the measurable outcomes that we want. And this is the place where during our discovery phase, we're going to have activities that create clarity, which is we're going to use our interview capability of going out and checking out and seeing what people are really doing, not relying just on our thought process. We're going to collect and interpret those user stories and then report the discoveries. We're going to ask ourselves, how do we get measured? How are we going to measure this? What is the definition of done? What is the measure of success? Okay. And then also we want to be able to determine our stakeholder analysis and alignment. We want to build a team ethos. We want to draft a vision board of our vision of this idea that we're seeing, that we're learning after our research has been done. And then based on discovered context, select the developmental approach and the project lifecycle that we need to be able to do. Then we're going to draft our our charter, and then also our statement of work. And one of the other pieces that I think a lot of project folks leave off the table is create a communication plan. Communication 360, not communication 180. Okay. Then we want to create establish our action plan, which is selecting the developmental approach. Is it predictive? Is it adaptive? Or is it hybrid? And then create that action plan to monitor and complete those projects. Identify and modify our artifacts or tools or templates so that we can be able to do it. What do we want to do? We want to deliver the project on time, within budget, and at the level of quality requested. Here are some of the predictive actions that we would do if it's a predictive project. Here's some of the actions we would do if it's an adaptive project. In other words, we've never done it before. So by being able to know we can do predictive and adaptive projects, there's nothing on the table you can't create. I want you to get that, because the adaptive model is going places you've never gone before. Predictive is, okay, it's something I've done before, but it's in a little bit different light. But the adaptive is we're flying the aircraft and we're building the aircraft simultaneously. Okay. So there's some frameworks. Here's some of our primary tools: a charter, stakeholder analysis, statement of work breakdown structure or backlogs and logs, and then project plan, the sprint or time blocking, and execution with the communication plan and change process. Okay, action is completed. Here's some things that we want to be able to measure while we're doing it. Sustainability is closing it out, determining our maintenance responsibility, and also when do updates need to be required, and what were your lessons learned, and did we actually put our logs and our templates and our tools in a place where other people can learn from them so that we can continue to grow. Here's some of the actions that work on that. Once again, hold on, there we go. It skipped over that page. Apologize. And to bring it all together one more time, that is inquiry, discover, establish, action, sustainability. That completes the project. Hello, y'all. Hey,
That's
what's up, Joe? Z, what's up? Anyway.
You
That's
had a couple of sound
Yeah.
bites that I need to make alarms for and make them settings on my phone.
What's that?
You had a couple of sound bites that I need to add to my phone, like make alarms for and have you come on to remind me of things.
All right. Well, what did you guys get from that message, and what are you hearing? Do you see the positive possibilities that you can actually put into place here?
Yes.
You know, by changing our mindset first and then getting into the space. Like I say, the name it, flip it, frame it. I love it because it works wherever we're stuck at. Just name where you're at and move on. Man, Joe got a haircut last time I saw him.
Okay. So tell everybody where they can find you, Michael. What's your favorite social media platform?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. Would probably be the best one for that one for the professional side. Also, you can get a hold of me through Michael at michaelgrabow.com, or you can also get me at mgrabow at theessentiallink.net. Not the missing link, but the essential link.
All right. Well, thank you for your time here, Michael. Now we're going to stop the live stream and go to the Q&A for everybody that's on the platform with us. So everybody, go find Michael on LinkedIn. And if you want to have more great conversations like this,